Yeah. All right, so everybody has their little slip paper? Yeah. Okay, I really need you guys to get a little slip paper to work these out, okay? I told you trading is going to be a little more harder. It's a little more harder than whenever we practice carrying over, okay? Carrying over was a lot easier this because it's like we're kind of doing it backwards. So I just really need you guys to have a piece of paper ready so that you're understanding what we need to do. All right, so before we get into the trading, I just have a basic one here that we already, it'll be easy for us to subtract. Oh, I should use a darker color. Okay, now can y'all see it better now? Yeah. Okay. Yes. So it's 43 minus 20. Okay. So I told you the steps are the exact same as if we were adding, but instead we're subtracting. Look at your minus sign. So we start in the back, of course. 3 minus 0. 1.
Okay. All right. Don't even come.
Hold on 1 second. I need to mute the screen. 3 minus 0 is 3. And then we move to the front and we'll do 4 minus 2 equals 2. So that answer is 23. So that one's easy because we simply could have subtracted everything the way that we were supposed to. We were supposed to subtract it.
Oh no, my phone came off. Except the other problem is floating.
Yes, but don't work it out. Okay. All right, so let's look at this second one. This is where we will have to start to trade. Now, I did kind of tell you a little bit yesterday, whenever you are subtracting double-digit numbers like this, you have to make sure to pay attention to those back numbers. Those back numbers will tell you if you need to trade or not. And if you're not paying close attention to what your back numbers look like, you may mess up the whole problem and get the wrong answer. So those back numbers will tell you if you need to trade or not. Just like when we carry over with addition, the back numbers tell us if we need to carry over or not, right? So when we look at 71 minus 48, we know we start in the back. So then we would say 1 minus 8. Now, is that possible for me to take 8 out of 1?
No.
I cannot do that. So that is where we trade. Anytime your top number is smaller than your bigger number, you will have to trade. Let me say that again. Anytime your top number is smaller than this bottom, only with your back numbers, you have to trade because there is no way possible for you to take 8 out of 1. So that's why I said you're going to have to pay close attention to those back numbers in order to know if you have to trade or not. Okay? So this is impossible. And so that's where trading comes in. Okay? So remember, we have 2 places when it comes to our coins. We have a ones place, numbers, we have a ones place and a tens place. So we're starting in the back, 1 minus 8. There is no way possible for us to subtract that like that. But there is a way we can make it possible. So what we're doing, like I said, it's called trading. Okay? Trading, like trading.
I have to write.
What I am going to do is I'm going to take 10 from this 7. Or we can say 10 from this top number. Okay? I'm going to take 10 from this. So when I take 10 from 7, guess what it turns into? 6. Because 10 from 71 is 61, right? Yeah, 10 less than 71 is 61. So if I took 10 from here, I still have 10 left. I took the 10, but now I want to add my 10 to this back number. Okay? I don't want you writing just yet. I want y'all to listen as I break this one down first, okay? Don't write this one yet. I had kind of said that before we started. I said you don't have to write yet. I'll let you know when it's time to write, okay? So, again, I can't do this, so what I'm going to do is trade. So I'm going to take 10 from the 7. It turns into 6. I'm going to add that 10 that I took and give it to the 1. So 10 plus 1 makes it what? 11. So now I'm going to put that 1 here to show that this is now 11. That's what I just did. I took 10 from the 7. It turned into 61, 6. Add the 10 that I took from here to the back number to make this back number big enough to subtract that 8. So now I have 11 minus 8. Can I do that?
Yes.
I can. So what will be 11 minus 8?
2.
Mm-mm. Count again. 3.
I knew it.
So 11 minus 8 is 3. And remember, this is now 6. So now I say 6 minus 4 is 2. 23.
Oh, who we doing now?
So how many of y'all kind of like, oh, we knew that?
We knew that. I didn't. We.
Not quite? Okay.
No.
All right.
Zero.
Let's go to the next one.
96 minus.
96 minus 39. All right, set this one up.
Okay, so they get up.
96 minus 39. Don't work it out just yet. I want you to set it up first.
Okay. Miss Paige, can we work the first one out?
Which one am I on?
The second.
All right. Mm-hmm. 5. Okay, we have it set up. I don't need you to work it just yet. I just want you to set it up first. Okay, so we have 96 minus 39. 96 minus 39. So we always start in the back, and I'll do 6 minus 9. Is that possible?
No.
I have 6, and I'm trying to take away 9.
No.
I cannot do that. Remember, if your top number is smaller than your bottom number, you will have to trade. There is no way to take 9 out of 6. So let's go ahead and trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 10 from this 9, cross out the 9, it becomes 8. Then I'll add my 10 to this back number, 6, which turns it into 16. Okay? Go ahead and fill in these steps. So I took 10 from the 9, as now turns into 86, 8. Then I add that 10 to this back number, the 6, and it turns into 16. So I put the 1 to show 16.
Okay. Did it, Miss Paige? Get that. I did it. I hate trading. Miss Paige did. I did it. That.
Okay, are we good? Ooh.
Yep.
All right, now I can subtract. So I have 16 minus 9 is 7.
I knew it.
And then I do my front. Now it's important to know, remember, it's not 9 anymore, it's 8. Okay? So it's 8 minus 3 is 5. 57. Okay, let's keep going. We're not done. We're gonna do a lot of these.
The second one and the first one.
All right, look at this one. 40 minus 27. Set it up.
Super fire.
Wow, that's amazing. Party. Oh, it keeps like bright. I don't know why the lighting is doing that. Okay. Think so?
Yeah. I know so. Oh, Miss Paige, just guess what I'm gonna do with this. Once we're done with the test, I'm gonna put it in my room, hang it up, and I'm gonna play school with this.
Okay. All right. So let's look at this one. We have 40 minus 27. So let's start in the back. We have 0 minus 7. Is that possible?
Yes.
No. 0 is smaller than 7. That's not possible. I can't do that. 0 cannot take away 7. There's no way to take 7 out of nothing. So now I have to do what's called trade.
Trading.
So I am going to take 10 from my front number. So 4 turns into 3. And I'm going to add that 10 I put from here to the back number 0. And that becomes number 10. So I put a 1 to show that it's now 10. So now I can subtract. So 10 minus 7 is what? 3. And now it's 3 minus 2 equals?
What?
13.
13.
So how do y'all feel about it? It's okay? It's kind of not okay?
It's the best.
It's getting okay? What do y'all think?
It's the best. Not okay.
It's not okay? Okay, we'll keep practicing. Which part is not okay?
How do you take away the numbers?
Huh, Harlem? Like, which part is it that's confusing?
Trading.
Like the trading part?
Yes.
Okay, so you only have to trade whenever your top number is smaller than your back number in the back. So what I mean by trading is I'm taking 10. I need to get this number big enough to where I can subtract it, okay? So I'm going to trade, meaning I'm going to take some away from a different number and add it to that number so I can have enough. So what I'm doing is I'm taking 10 away from 4, which means this turns into 30. You see that? It was 40. Then when I took 10 away, it became 30. So the 10 that I took, I now added it to my back number, and 10 plus 0 is 10. So I have to put the 1 to show that this back number is now 10. So now I can subtract 10 minus 7. Okay? So that's kind of what the trading process is I'm taking 10 away. I'm trying to find more. I need to add more so that I can subtract it. That's why I'm trading. I'm taking the numbers I'm taking away from this one to add it to this one. Okay? So we'll keep practicing, and as we keep going through it, it'll maybe get a little easier. Okay? All right, let's do another one. So this one I want you to work on your own. Try it out on your own. Okay, we have 95 minus 48. So try this one on your own. Let's see what you got.
I don't want to.
95 minus 48. Oh. Did you stop?
Okay. 9 and 4 is ow, ow, ow. 9 and 4 is 5, 5, 5.
The number has to be less.
No. Wait, we have to work this one out.
If you keep saying that, it won't get better. So if you keep saying I don't like it, I can't do it, then that's what's gonna happen. If you speak negative, then that's what it's gonna be. Some things are hard, but we gotta encourage ourselves that we can do it and that we'll get it done.
Trading is pretty easy. Sometimes. No, digital math in my head. This wasn't. Trading is easy for me.
Okay.
It's more easier than trading numbers. You know. it's hard. It's not. No, it's more easier.
Hey, and y'all don't have to get a loose leaf paper to write your spelling no more. Use your tablet. But you already started on that, so that's okay. But for next time. All right. Let's go ahead and discuss this one. So 95 minus 48. All right. So we start in the back. 5 minus 8. Is that possible?
No.
No way possible to take 8 out of 5. I can't. It's only 5. No way to take out 8. So I have to trade. So what I'm going to do is I come to the front. I'm going to take 10 away from the 9. It turns into 8. And I add that 10 to the 5. This turns into 15. Okay?
15 minus 8.
15 minus 8 is 7.
Yeah.
Then I go to the front. Remember, this 9 is not here anymore. It's 8. So 8 minus 4 is 4. How many people got that right?
I got that one.
47. How many people got that? Let me see your papers. How about that? Okay. That's the only way I don't know. I see some people, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I put on your new front.
All right, cool.
I got it.
All right, let's do another one. Good. I see them.
That's easy.
Okay.
Give us a harder one. That was so easy. How could this be hard? Give us a harder one. Please. Oh. Minus 9.
Okay. 46 minus 19.
Okay.
Try this one out. 46 minus 19.
46 minus 19. Where should I put it? I want to do this. Wow, this is pretty easy. Oh, it's done. Oh, I made it like 91. I don't answer. It's a very easy one. What comes after 4? It's like it's very, 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 very easy. I got 91.
It's never about what happens to us. It's about what we are to it. That's so true.
Okay, good. So we did number words.
There you go. Got it.
Good sign, though. Let's see what are those points.
I think I got the right answer.
So I hope in math you did number words.
So mine is.
Okay.
Yes.
Pages are on the desk. All right, so let's go over this one. 46 minus 19. So we start in the back. 6 minus 9. Can I do that?
No.
No way possible. So I need to trade. So I'm going to take 10 away from the 4. It turns into 36. Add that 10 to 6. It becomes 16. Now I can subtract. 6. Get another paper. 16 minus 9 is 7.
Yeah, 7.
And 3 minus 1 is 2.
Did you do that?
27. How many people had that? Good.
That's how you write it. I did that too, Miss Blue. That's how you write it.
Yeah? Just one person, too?
I almost had it.
Okay. Let's try this one. We'll do one more.
Yeah.
Yay.
Make it hard. Make it hard, please. Make it hard.
No.
We just started on this. This is our first time starting this.
Yeah, but y'all need to chill, okay?
Show God. That's them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh. 82 minus 48.
That's easy.
82 minus 48.
I just did this first. No. Minus and oh, I did it. Yep, I'm done. This is all of my class. Okay, so you're really gonna do. Want me to show you my paper? Nope, I got a lot of it. Well, you just got me. No, I didn't have that paper. The next thing that we're gonna
Stop wasting all the paper. Why are you doing that? Mm-hmm.
whatever comes next, I have to write it small. I think I got it. I got it. I don't think I know. I do. I mean, I think we all have the same answer. I know I got it. I haven't finished yet. It was Carly. Bio second. Amina was second too, and Carly was
You underline yourself except for you. I mean, underline your words as a subject.
What kind of this one there? That's the deck. Can we do this?
I don't know.
It was on the book set. I'm pulling down that the answer is 48. No, it's not.
All right. Let's go over this one. So 82 minus 48.
Can I work it out, Ellie? Can we work it out today?
All right. So we start in the back. 2 minus 8. Is it possible?
No.
Nope. So I need to trade. So I can take away 10 from this 8. It becomes 72. 7. Add that 10 to 2. It becomes 12. So now I subtract 12 minus 8 is 4. Then I go to the front number. 7 minus 4 is 34.
I had that. I've been heard.
Did we get those answers?
Yes.
Yes.
Somewhat.
I never got one wrong.
Okay. So this is what trading looks like. So like I said, it's really just important to pay attention to that back number. If those back numbers, the back numbers will tell you if you need to trade or not. Now, don't trade and then you don't need to. It's only if your top number is smaller than your bottom. If this would have been 8 minus 2, you don't have to trade. You can take 2 out of 8. So that's just it. That's what you have to pay close attention to with this, is making sure that, excuse me, that you actually can trade and it is a trading problem. Okay. All right. Awesome. So we are not done with math. We have a lot that we're learning today.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And definitely know we need our math book. Wait.
All right. So we are actually going to move into, so we've already kind of learned addition and subtraction, right? We've already learned how to add, how to subtract. So we are going to start learning what's called multiplication.
No.
Has everyone heard of multiplication before?
Yes, I heard.
No.
Yep, so that's what we'll be moving into now. So we'll start to see some multiplication in our book. And yeah, so we'll have a mixture of addition and subtraction and also multiplication. So of course, we'll start off really, it'll start off with some easy facts. You're like, oh, I know those. That's our easy, of course, which are good. Then we'll get into the ones that'll take a little bit of thought. you know.
No.
Miss Flugents, I don't like it.
I love multiplication. Like in exclusion. What page is it on?
It's not in the book. It's not in the book.
Oh, yes it is. It's right here.
No, it's not in the book. Okay, so multiplication, this is what the word looks like, okay? So we know the plus sign means addition and the line, the minus sign means to subtract. So whenever it comes to multiplication, we have what's called the X, okay? The X. This X means groups of. Sometimes we may say times, but this X means groups of. Remember that. That's going to help as we start to break down what multiplication is. It means groups of. Multiplication is really important. Multiplication is really good to use whenever you are trying to add something that's a large group of whatever it is. So we can add simply like 5 plus 2 or 7 plus 4, but sometimes things might be like 100 or something of more of something. Multiplication comes into play because when you multiply it, that makes it a lot easier to figure out what answer it is faster instead of sitting there trying to count each thing. So usually when we use multiplication, it'll be with like larger groups of something, and it's a faster way to figure out the answer to some problems. So multiplication, the symbol is the X, and this X means groups of, okay? So we're gonna start with learning multiplying times 10, okay? Times 10. All right, excuse me. Okay. All right, so let's look at this little circle that I have up here. As you can see, I have this little circle and it has a group in there. It's a total of 10 inside of it, okay? So this is only one group, okay? So because it's only one group of 10, I'm gonna put that right here. I'm gonna show that this right here is one group of 10 because it is, right? It's one and it has 10 in there total. If I was to write this as a multiplication fact, this is what it would look like. It would look like 1 times 10. But remember, what does times mean? Groups of. So whenever you have the X, just because it says times, don't forget that it means one group of 10. It's the same thing, except when it's written down as a fact, it'll look 1 times 10. So this is one group of 10, 1 times 10. So how many is that total? 10. It's only 10. So 1 times 10 is? 10. Is it?
Wait, 1 times 10 equals 10.
Is it?
That's weird.
Is it weird?
Wait. You got 10 ones. That's how much ones.
They say I have 10 ones. Do you understand what I mean by groups of though?
No.
So it's one group of 10.
What?
So 1 times 10 is 10, okay? Because what I said was I only have one group of 10. This is only one group of 10, so that's a total of 10. 1 times 10 equals 10. That's 1. But don't write these facts down yet. I'm gonna do them all first, okay? So multiplying, if I drew it as a picture, this is what it would look like. I would have a group and it has 10 in there total, one group of 10. But when I put it as a multiplication fact, it becomes 1 times 10, which is still one group of 10 equals a total of 10. If it's one group of 10, then it's 10. There's only one group of 10. Okay, let's look at another one. So I'm gonna go ahead and add to this group and I'm gonna put 2.
Oh, what?
So now look at it now. Now it's a little different. So now I have 2 groups that have 10 in them. So how many groups of 10 is this? 2 groups of 10. 2 groups of 10. Now I'll make it into a multiplication fact. So it'll be 2 times 10. Now to figure out your answer, oh, I know you may know it already. I know you may know it's 20 already, but I'm saying if you didn't know it was 20, a way you would figure out your answer is just count 10 20. Because it's 2 groups of 10, so you can count them by 10s. 10, 20. So 2 times 10 is 20. So the 2 groups of 10 is a total of 20. Multiplication simply means groups of. When you have that X in between it, all you're saying is I have 2 groups of 10. So if you ever get confused of like, say if you had to multiply 8 times 7, that's a harder fact to multiply. Say if you don't know it right off the top, you would say, if I have to create a picture, you would say, I have 8 groups of 7. So that means you would draw 8 groups with a total of how many in each one? 7. And then you can just count them out. Okay? So just keep that in mind. If you ever run across the fact that you're not sure of what it is right off the top, remember that X tells you that it's groups of. We call it we say times, but it's saying groups of. That's 8 groups of 7. That's all multiplication is. It's just a group of a certain number together. That's all it is. Okay, let's keep going with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw another group of 10.
Can we do it by ourselves?
Do what?
Oh, I know the answer. We didn't even draw the answer yet.
Okay, so now how many groups do I have?
3.
I have 3 groups of 10 now. Okay, so 3 groups of 10. 3 groups of 10. I have 3 groups that all have 10 on the inside of them. Okay, so
I know the answer.
yep. So now if I make this into a multiplication fact, it'll look like 3 times 10. What does times mean? So I'm saying that I have 3 groups of 10. Instead of writing it out like this, I just put the X. So I have 3 times 10. Again, if you don't know the answer, we can just count each group by 10. So 10, 20, 3 times 10 is
30.
Now, like I said, it's kind of clear what the times 10 facts will be, right? Like if I have 4 times 10, it's going to be 40. 5 times 10, 6 times 10, 7 times 10, 8 times 10,
80.
9 times 10, 9 times 10, 90, right? And 10 times 10 would be 100. So it's kind of obvious what the times 10 facts will be. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them all up, but I just wanted to break down what multiplication means. It means groups of. So I want you to write them down because you will have them in your book today and you will start testing on them soon. So I'm gonna put the times 10 facts up. Those are the first multiplication facts that we're learning, the times 10. So when you say multiplication, it means groups of.
I'm done.
So I'm putting them up here.
I'm done.
Okay. All right, so we have 10 times, let me erase this. Okay, so put times 10 facts, put that like that. Get a clean sheet. No, that's good, that's good. We'll translate it to something else. Times 10 facts, so put that like that. So let's start with the first one. So we'll start with 0 actually now. An easy thing about 0 is that anything that's multiplied times 0 is what? 0. It's nothing. If I have 10 times 0, 10 groups of 0 is 0. So anything multiplied times 0 is 0. So if I do 1,000,000 times 0, guess what? 0 is it. 500 times 0, 0. So anything times 0 is 0. So 10 times 0 is 0. So 10 times 1. So if I have 10 group of 1, that'll be 10. 10 times 2.
Wait, write this?
Yeah. 10 times 2 is 20. That's what we kind of just went over. 10 times 3 is 30. 10 times 4 is 40. So get these. I kind of ran out of space, so I'm going to just do these first, and then I'm going to erase it to put the rest. So get these written down first. So 10 times 0 is 0. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. 10 times 4 is 40. Now, if I flipped it and I said 0 times 10, is that the same thing? Is 0 times 10 the same thing as 10 times 0?
Wait,
Some people say no, some say yes. Yeah, it is. It's the same exact fact. It is the same thing. Huh?
It's a twin fact.
It's a twin problem. 10 times 0 is 0, so 0 times 10 is 0. It's the same thing, it's just the numbers were switched. Just like if I would say 1 times 10, it still would be 10. It's the same thing, it's just switched around. Okay? So go ahead and put these, and then I'll erase it to put the rest. I kind of ran out of space, so I'll put the rest.
Oh, I know the next one already.
It's 5 times 10.
It's 10 times 5. I'm
Nope.
about to write it.
5 times 10.
I'm writing it down.
Class did every single thing already.
Even
10 times. How about 10? How about 10 times?
16.
What's this was it? What's 5 times 5? This is
106? 160. 160.
That's
Miss Flitters, I got this fact, Miss Flitters. 10 times 16. 160.
the answer is 202. I thought that was all, and I said 1 3 times.
You can really look up there.
All right, do we have these? So I can put up the next set?
No! Yes!
Okay, so that was 4. So now I have 10 times 5,
I knew it.
it's 50. 10 times 6, 60. 10 times 7, 70. 10 times 8, 80. 10 times 9, 90. And then I'll put the last one down here, 10 times 10, it's 100.
I knew it!
Well, we did say that like a few minutes ago. Why do you act surprised for something that we already talked about?
Yeah.
Whoa!
That's fine for that. Okay, let's do number 115 minus A. I mean, that's A.
Try to get them done.
There's a
Something 10 times 90.
How do you even get that mistake?
Obviously, 10 times 8.
You forgot 10 times minus. 10 minus times 1.
100. What? Got it. Oh, hold on. Like this. So I have room.
This is it. No way to break Google.
Yeah.
Delete that's infinite.
How many more stuff do I have to
100.
I mean,
I was on
the
that.
Google.
It's like 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
And 1.
It's actually equal something. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. It's good. I thought multiplication would be hard. I thought multiplication would be hard.
Well, when you get into like the bigger ones, like All right, how's that? Everybody has all these? Yeah? Yeah? All right.
Yes. Stop.
All right, so could you go ahead and get out your math book for me
We already.
and go to 92? I want to kind of discuss something.
We were discussing. Wait, 90?
Yeah. Okay, because the way you have your number sentences in your book, it'll be a little different now. And I just want to explain that. It's tying into what we've done already, but I just want to explain it like with the book. So 92A, but your workbook page, not the facts page, your other page that comes after it in your math, 92A.
Wait, this?
92A?
I found it. Oh, this is easy.
That page is not done. You can do that.
Why does my thing have Carly's name? Listen, sometimes what we need is multiplication
Miss
cards.
Student, what page is it?
92A.
Guys. Okay, I'm bringing. This one is
92A.
yesterday on our math homework.
Okay. Well, Miss Student,
Huh?
Yeah, I saw that.
Miss Student, you are breaking up a lot.
It's breaking up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know why.
Then
Okay.
it's freezing.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Is it freezing for everybody, the screen? No? Yeah?
Time.
No, I guess maybe it might be different. Here.
No.
1 times 10.
All right. So let's look at, everybody has it or not yet? Not yet? Okay.
I already did it, Miss Student.
Yeah, some of y'all probably, I know some of y'all get the pages done before, but I just want to explain and I just want to make sure that you did it correctly before, you know.
Second time having a hiccup.
You just did anything.
Okay, so ear.
Yeah, you need to match the words that rhyme. No.
This is the second time
We have to do our work with our best efforts.
This is the second time I had hiccup.
Y'all
Today.
don't start that.
It was an accident. Fall. In your paper trail. Doesn't matter.
Can I do
This is the second time I had
Did you finish all your pages?
hiccup. Pages.
Hold on, let me see. Oh, Lord.
I did that.
Yeah, that's fine, babe.
Let's do this. Second time having hiccups. Stop burping. They're kind of being
All right, so we're good now.
Yes, ma'am.
I think everybody's good. Okay, so number 1, it says Marcia counted the tiles and put them in groups of 10. When she finished, she counted 3 groups of tiles. Okay, so in order for you to create your picture, so what they're talking about is like a tile, so it's just like a little square. And so it says Marcia counted them and put them in groups of 10. Okay. So when she finished, she had 3 groups of tiles. So that means she had 3 groups of how many in each group? 10. So all you can do is do like how I did, draw the circle, and then you can put like 10 little squares for the tiles in there. Okay, because she had 3 groups of 10 in each one. So I'm not sure if those who completed their page already did it like this, but this is what you were supposed to do.
3.
Yes, because it says she counted the tiles and put them in groups of 10. And when she finished, she had 3 groups of 10. So you're drawing those 3 groups of 10.
Miss Student,
Uh-huh.
What page is it?
92A. It's not the facts page, but it's the work page after that. It's the work page after your facts page.
I did 10.
Miss Flugence.
My tummy hurts right now, so sometimes it does a little go up, come back.
This one?
Yeah, it does that. That's acid reflux.
But I just try to swallow it so it doesn't come
This
back.
one?
I times. What?
Padre told me that that's just
Yeah, that's it. 92A. Yeah, we're on number 1. So Marsha counted the tiles and she put them in 3 groups of 10, okay? So after you draw the picture, at the bottom it says Marsha has blank groups. How many groups does she have? 3. So put that number on that first line. Marsha has 3 groups of how many? 10 tiles. So that's how you will figure out number problems like this, okay? So I'm not sure, like I said, those who completed their page already, if that's what you did, but this is what it should look like, okay?
Know the answer. My trading paper has
Okay? All right. So that's what I wanted to go over with your math. Yeah, that was a lot.
Miss Flugence.
It'll be like that some days where we just got a lot that we're gonna have to cover in math. But we're kind of picking up, getting ready for 3rd grade. So we'll be learning a lot of things in preparation for 3rd grade. Okay.
I saw you.
All right.
Miss
So,
Flugence.
uh-huh.
My sister bumped her head and it was bleeding.
Oh Lord, I hope she feels better. I hope everything's okay. All right, so let's go ahead and go into our reading. So that's really it. We don't have a phonics lesson today. You're moving on to verbs in your book. Remember, verbs are words that does in action. So your book will not go into like the linking, state of being, helping verbs that we've learned already. It'll only cover actions. So just keep that in mind whenever you start working in your book. It's moving on to verbs. Verbs are words that does action. All right. Okay. All right. Go ahead and get out your reading. No longer a nobody. We'll be on chapter 2 today. Reading about Sammy. Yeah, please. 8. Well, we're on.
Wait, we're doing the whole chapter again? We're done with Sammy. Huh? We're still on Sammy. But we're still on Sammy. But it's gonna say Sammy.
Okay, we're on page 8.
I'm reading.
So remember, Sammy felt like he was a nobody. No one at school pays him attention. He feels like, no one cares. And so he finds out that there's a pet
Miss
fair
Flugence,
happening
I can't
at
find the
school.
page.
He finds out that there's a pet fair happening at the school, and he says, well, maybe if I participate, he says, maybe I'll become a somebody, right? So he's excited. He goes home, but then mom kind of tells him that it won't work because they cannot have a pet. So Sammy gets sad and he's like, I'm just gonna always be a nobody. So let's pick up on page 8 today, going into what happens next.
So this is page 10 or 8?
Well, it's technically page 9, but page 8 is where the chapter starts. So
Miss Flugence.
all right, go ahead. You was going to next read. I was going to call you, but I don't know if you had another question. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Lyric. You can do 8. Not 8. 9. Solomon, you can do 10. Go ahead, Lyric. Page 9. Oh,
I can't find the page.
the page numbers are at the bottom. Chapter 2, page 9. Sammy's discovery.
Wait, are we in a new book?
Yeah, no longer a nobody.
What's the book called?
No longer a nobody?
I don't have one.
Okay. Oh, I thought, okay.
I
All right,
don't
so
have
Solomon,
a
you can do
book.
9. All right, well, you can just listen. It's okay. Or maybe go ask your mom if you don't see it.
The next
What's
day
the book
at
called
school,
again?
all the children
Hold on,
talked
Solomon,
about
1
the
second. No longer a nobody.
The next day at school, all the children talked about the coming pet fair. I'm coming to bring my cat, Samantha, said Jennifer. She knows when it's Sunday, that's nothing. Restore Tony. My dog Pebbles plays the piano if I give him a cookie. My parrot says good morning. It's fine. Morning, said Lori. Sammy turned away and walked off by himself.
New book.
He didn't have anything to say because he didn't have a pet. And he could not get one either.
Okay, good. So Sammy goes to school the next day, and of course, what is everyone talking about? The coming pet fair, right? And so Tony's talking about his dog can play the piano. Lori says her parakeet can say good morning. And how do you think that's making Sammy feel?
Sad.
He's really sad because he wants to participate, but he can't. So imagine how Sammy's feeling right now, knowing he can't participate. And everybody's talking about all this, all that. Okay? Page 10, Evan. This is the new one. No longer a nobody. Lyric. You have it, Lyric? This is the one. Okay. Oh, no?
No.
It's at your house.
It says Granny's house. I'm at
Oh, okay.
my granny's house.
Okay, but you do have it, just not with you. Okay. All right. Well, you can just listen for today.
When Sammy got home from school, he saw mother.
Okay, yeah,
walking
she left it. We're at my mom's house, and her book is at our house.
Okay. I wanted to make sure she had it. She just doesn't have it with her, but that's okay. All right, go ahead, page 10.
When Sammy got home from school, he saw mother talking to a neighbor. Sammy put his foot down, on the table and went outside. Behind the apartment lays a swampy ravine. Mr. Holloway, the apartment caretaker, complained about how it looked and how mosquitoes bred there in the summer. Sammy picked up a slender branch from the ground and started for the ravine. His sneakers squished in the dampness as he poked around with his stick. Sammy saw a snail. Part of his odd-looking body was sticking out of his sparrow shell. When Sammy drew closer, the snail quickly retreated into his shell.
Okay, so Sammy's pretty sad because everybody's talking about their pet while he does not have one. So he goes home, and behind his house there was a swampy ravine, and so he's just kind of, walking around, and then he sees something strange, right? He saw a snail. Okay, let's see on page 12.
Now read it.
I'm gonna let Carla do 12, and then Harlem, you can do 13. Come on. Shh.
Sammy
Get your work
picked
done.
up
You're not
the
even doing
shell
anything.
and looked at it. It was not only a shell, it was the snail's house. The snail lived inside such as odd-looking little animal and such an old-looking little house. Odd-looking little house. You're a nobody like me, said Sammy. I'm going to take you home. Excited and happy, Sammy clambered up the hill to the apartment building. At last, he had a pet. He couldn't have a pet like a dog or a cat, but he could have a pet of his own. Inside the apartment, Sammy put his snail carefully on the kitchen table and ran to look for something to put him in a shoebox he had been.
Okay, so Sammy sees a snail and he's curious, right? So what does he decide to do? Well, take it, right? Because he said the snail was a what? A nobody, like who? Him. Yeah, that's yeah. So he bonded with the snail over the snail being a nobody, and because he felt like that, right? So he says he can't have a pet or a dog, but do you think he will be able to have a snail in his apartment? Probably so. It's a really small, animal, so maybe so. So what does he get to put the snail in? A shoebox. All right, 13. Go ahead, Harlem.
In a shoebox he had been saving was just the thing. He carefully placed his pet in the middle of the box and put the cover on. Then he took the cover off. Animals needed to took air. Besides, the snail couldn't go anywhere. He thought Sammy had feeling that maybe Mother wouldn't like the snail, so he decided not to say anything about it. He would not put behind the couch where he slept. Mother let him keep some of his treasures. There, tomorrow at school, he would find a book about snails so he could learn how to take care of him.
Okay, good. So Sammy gets the shoebox and that's what he's going to put the snail in. He's excited and he's like, Mother, Mother should let me keep the snail, but he also was like, I don't know, Mother may not. So he decides to do what with him? He hid him, right? Yeah, you can say protect too, but yes, he hid him because he didn't know if Mother would be okay with it or not. So he's so excited. So the next day at school, what he's done is he said he's gonna go and get a book about snails because he's like, I'm gonna learn all about snails as much as I can. Okay, so Sammy found a pet, an unexpected pet, right? Most people would probably been dogs, cats, birds, but Sammy has a snail, so that's different. All right, so tomorrow we're gonna go into chapter 3, and Sammy's gonna learn a lot about Slowpoke, his snail, and yeah, so that's what we'll read tomorrow. Okay. All right, good. All right, let's go on to our science and social studies. Let's start with social studies, page 107. We'll talk about the Underground Railroad this week. Oh, that's not the right one.
It's Flugents. How many more stuff do we have to do?
We'll be done soon. The paper's up there. Stop drawing on that and do your actual work. Right. So remember, we have been talking about how the
What
people
page
have
is
been
it?
107, page 107.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Got it, Miss Bridget.
Okay.
Then why did you have
What
to
are
sign
you
social
doing?
studies in the hallway?
No,
All right. So remember, we have been talking about the pioneers as they decided to travel west. Remember, everything started in the east. That's where the pilgrims first landed, and that's where they eventually decided, because the cities got too crowded, they decided to start traveling west. So that's what we have been talking about the last couple of weeks, like what they had to take on their journey. Last week we read about James and Anna. Well, week before about James and Anna and their journey west. And so last week was about just the different songs, okay? So we are about to go into a different section, a different chapter starting on next week. And before we get to that chapter, I wanted to cover, we're going to cover what's called the Underground Railroad. So although this side of history talks about the pioneers traveling west, there is another side of history that's a lot different than what we've been talking about. So during this time of the pioneers and all of that, there were people that were slaves during this time, okay? And so America, some of the people in America decided to capture people in Africa and bring them back to America as slaves to work for them, basically. And so during this time frame, you have people that are slaves and they're not free. They were treated really harshly, and it was just a terrible time in America. During this time of slavery, the South was the worst part where slavery was. It was in other places too, but the South is really where slavery was. So that's why in the southern states like Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, all those southern states, you would find a lot of plantations. We actually still have plantations you could visit here in Louisiana. So slavery existed during this time. So yes, we talk about the pioneers and all of that and how they were traveling west, but there's another side of history for our people where they were enslaved. They did not have the freedom to travel west like they wanted to and do all what they wanted to. Instead, they were, slaves on plantations. So during this time of slavery, some people knew that slavery was wrong and they wanted to fight to make a change. They wanted to get slavery, what's the word I want to use? They wanted to have slavery gone. They wanted slavery to be gone, basically. And so before we get into Abraham Lincoln, because we'll talk about the Civil War next week, I kind of wanted to get into the Underground Railroad and what that was, okay? So there were some people who felt like slavery was wrong and they wanted to abolish slavery and they wanted to get rid of it. They felt like everyone should be able to be free and not have to be enslaved. Because remember, these slaves are working on these plantations, but they're not like getting paid and making money and able to live freely how they want. No, it was not like that at all. So there were some people who decided that they would start what's called an underground railroad. They would help slaves escape from slavery. They would help the slaves become free. They did not want the slaves to, remain in this harsh environment where they were treated so badly. Instead, they decided that they would free them because in the South, it was illegal for you to to leave the plantation without your master, as they call them, the plantation owner, letting you go. So it was a very dangerous thing to escape from the plantation. It was very dangerous. That's why they had to have this secret underground railroad, because it was a dangerous time. So that's what we're going to kind of get into this week. And next week, we'll also get into it a little more because we'll go into like the Civil War side of it, Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so 107. So there were some very difficult parts in America's history. One of these difficult times was slavery. And so slaves have been brought to America during colonial times. So if you remember when we talked about the colonies, right? All of those colonies that they were building, the 13 colonies, guess who they were bringing to work on their plantations and all their property? Slaves. Yeah. So as the country grew, they went and got more and more slaves. It was a trade. They made money with all the different slaves that they would go and get and they would bring back to America. So it was, it was a business basically. So many Americans, some people felt like slavery was okay. And there were many who felt like slavery was wrong and that everyone should have the right to be free, and they disagreed with slavery. So some people began to speak out against slavery and, and started to make it known that this was not okay. Now, like I said, a lot of the plantation states were in the South, and in the North, not that it was perfect, but in the North, you could go there and live a little more freely than you did in the South. So a lot of times the people, most of the time, people from the North were usually the ones making an argument for the people, the slaves that were in the South, okay? So others helped slaves. So they started to help slaves escape by what's called the Underground Railroad. So here are some of the leaders of the Underground Railroad. We have Harriet Tubman. Has everyone heard of Harriet Tubman before? She's probably the most famous person that people talk about with the Underground Railroad. Have y'all heard of her before or no?
No.
No? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Harriet Tubman, she was one of, and I'll have videos and stuff we'll look at and stuff. I'll send for y'all to watch and stuff. We have William Still and Thomas Garrett. So these three people are, and there's a lot of others that help with the Underground Railroad, but these are like the three most popular names that you hear. And honestly, Harriet Tubman is probably the most popular that you'll hear when it comes to the Underground Railroad. Okay, so let's talk about 108. So let's talk about what the Underground Railroad was. So if you didn't know, the Underground Railroad was actually not a railroad, and it was not underground. So it's not like an underground tunnel they built or a railroad that they actually took, train that they rode. That's not what it was called. They honestly used that name to trick people into thinking it was an underground railroad. Because of course, when plantation owners found out that their slaves were escaping through the Underground Railroad, they were out looking for a railroad that was underground. And guess what? You think they found it? No, because it didn't exist. So that was like their secret word they used to trick people into thinking that's what the railroad was. That's what it was. It was an actual railroad that was underground. But that's not what it was. It was actually just a secret path that they took to help slaves to escape. It was a secret way that many Americans helped slaves follow to freedom. Okay? So many of the people who worked the Underground Railroad were slaves themselves. Harriet Tubman was one. She was a slave as well. And they found their way through freedom. And they decided, instead of just being free on their own, they said, you know what? We're going to go back and we're going to help more slaves become free. We're going to go and help other people get out of slavery. So that's great that they thought of them, right? That they didn't just leave and say, bye, we're leaving, we're going to the North. Instead, they decided to come back. And that was even more dangerous for them to come back and help other slaves escape. So that is a very, dangerous thing that they did, but they did it because they were brave and courageous, and they wanted to help others seek that freedom that they had. So along the path of the Underground Railroad, they had what were called safe houses, okay? So these safe houses was also kind of what you can say like a station, and you would stop at one when you got to one, okay? So they had the path, and along the path, they would have a safe house they would stop at for a moment, and then when they would keep going to the next path, they would stop at the next safe house, okay? And so these safe houses were places where they probably would get food, they would be able to have shelter for the night, they would be able to stay there for the night to rest because it was a long path, and they would, the next day they would get up, or maybe say they would stay a few days, they would go and they would continue on their journey, okay? The people that lived in these safe houses, these stations, were called station masters. They would open their homes to the people, the slaves that were escaping. They would open their homes and allow them to stay there so they would be, safe for the night. So there was also what was called a conductor. The conductor was the person who led the people from station to station. So the conductor was the leader. He would lead the people where to go, which house. They would stop here for a little while, then they would go to the next house. So the conductor was leading the people where they should go. Since most of the slavery was happening in the southern states, the Underground Railroad was a journey to the north all the way to Canada. And I'll show you the path on tomorrow when we look at some pictures tomorrow. I'll show you what the path actually looks like. Okay, so like I said, so the station houses was where they would stop as they were trying, going on their way north. And the station masters were the people who opened their homes, and the conductors were the people who led the people. They knew where to go. They said, we're going to stop at this home, then we're going to go to this home. So many Americans worked together in the Underground Railroad. And like I said, Harriet Tubman is the most famous. That's who most people hear about. Harriet Tubman, because she helped a lot of slaves escape. And so I'm gonna put a video for y'all to watch. It talks about like her whole life, how many slaves she helped escape total throughout this whole process. She was very, very brave for doing this. And so she and many others helped a great many of slaves escape to freedom. Okay. Excuse me. So on the 108, it says it's something to see. So in Fountain City, Indiana, that's actually one of the station houses, right? That you could visit. Anybody been there before?
No.
No. That's okay. So yeah, this is in Fountain City, Indiana. And so this is an example of what a station house would look like, right? So excuse me. So that's how they did it. So during the time of slavery, there were a lot of songs that the slaves would usually sing. And so that's what that is on 109. It's one of the songs, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And so many of the slaves, they relied upon the Lord, to set them free the same way our people did, because the same people, but the same way the people did whenever with Moses. Remember, they did the same thing. They were longing to become free from slaves in Egypt. And so it's the same thing. The Lord, they cried to the Lord, and out of that came songs. Songs were the way they tried to, that's one of the ways they communicated with God. And so one of them is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And so they're called spirituals as well. And so this one says, swing low, sweet chariot, coming forward to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forward to carry me home. And now remember, a lot of the slaves, most of them, were from Africa, so they didn't know anything about American land, any of that. So when they're saying home, they're not talking about building their own house and leaving the plantation. They're talking about going back home to their land, because they took them from their land to bring them to work as a slave in America. Okay, so tomorrow we'll maybe listen to Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. We'll listen to the song, okay? All right, so this is the Underground Railroad, and so it's kind of setting us up for our lesson next week, because Abraham Lincoln is going to come into play during this time of slavery. So we have a lot of presidents that were around this time, but it's not until Abraham Lincoln gets in office that something starts to be done about the slavery that the people were going through. All right, so that's our social studies this week on the Underground Railroad. Let's go ahead to your science. Let's finish the rainforest habitat. A beetle. I think it's I think a rhino, something like that beetle. I don't know.
That's a beetle.
Yeah. What's that? Okay, you wrote Greek and Latin. You gotta write those too. Okay, so remember last week we started the rainforest. Well, we're on page 84. Sorry, page 84. Okay. Uh-huh.
Can I go use the restroom?
Mm-hmm. Kinley and Faith. Okay. All right, so we're good? Yep. All right, so page 84. So last week we started the rainforest habitat. I told you the rainforest is our largest habitat. The largest rainforest is found in South America, and it's called the Amazon. So remember, the rainforest has 4 layers to it. That's how large it is. We have the emergent layer, which is the top layer where the tallest trees are. That's where they get the most sunlight, the most sunlight, the most rain. Any animals that live in there usually fly, have, strong arms, or they have strong tails, and they live in those trees. Then after we left the emergent, we went to the canopy, which is the next layer. That's also in the trees, but you'll see a lot of vines and mosses in that area. You'll see some snakes, some frogs, and you'll see some birds living in the canopy area as well. So because the canopy is covered by the emergent, there is a little bit of sunlight, but it's a lot darker in that layer, and a little bit of rain happens in that area. Okay, so let's go to 84 and let's talk about the third layer, which is called the understory. Okay, so the understory, so this would be like at the bottom, not like on the floor because that's different, but it's like the lower parts of the trees. The understory layer is between the canopy and the forest floor. This layer is home to many different kinds of insects. Frogs and lizards that eat insects live there. Predators such as jaguars and leopards will spend much of their time in the understory. As you can see on that picture, that leopard is sitting like on that tree branch. Now he's not high up in the tree, but he's sitting like in that branch. That's where like they'll sleep at night, and that's where they'll stay. You can back up? Okay. Okay, so you'll find the jaguars and the leopards in this layer. The understory layer now, remember, the deeper we're going into the rainforest, the less sunlight we'll have and the less rain we'll have. So it's darker in this layer, and it's a lot hotter in this layer as well because it's getting lower and lower, and further away from the sun and the rain. So this is a hot and damp place, and it's also dark because of those other layers covering it. So yeah, so if you ever go in the rainforest, you may want to make sure that you dress appropriately, right? You don't want to have on like long sleeves, boots, a hat, and all of that. You're probably gonna be like super hot. So you want to make sure you dress accordingly if you go in the rainforest one day. I don't know if anybody wants to go in the rainforest, but
I'm not, because
yeah. Yeah.
I will.
Okay. So jaguars and leopards and also a bunch of insects are found in this layer. As you can see on the picture, there's the beetle. I think this is called like a rhino beetle or something like that. I don't know. But that's a beetle. So you'll see a lot of cool animals as well inside. Like a lot of unique insects are found in the rainforest, like different types of beetles, like ants, different types of butterflies. Yeah, but that not in that layer. And so you'll find a lot of them in that area. So in that layer. So this is the understory, okay? And so you'll find insects, jaguars, leopards. It's darker, it's hotter, and it's damp in that layer. Okay, so let's go to the last layer, which is the forest floor. That's the bottom of the entire habitat. The forest floor is found at the very bottom of the rainforest. Now, of course, we learned that the lower we go into the habitat, the darker, the hotter it gets. So how do you think it is on that layer? And that's the bottom one. Dark is the darkest layer, and it's the hottest layer. Very little wind, very little light gets through this layer. This makes the forest floor very hot and very damp. So in the daytime, you can get a little bit of light, but imagine how dark it is in that layer at night.
You wouldn't be able to.
Yes, probably can't even see your hand in front of you. I'm sure it's like super, super dark. Probably a little scary. So I don't know if you want to get caught in the forest floor when nightfall comes, right? So in this part of the layer, we will find fungi, which grows in that layer. Some of the fungi we'll see is like mushrooms. Did you know mushrooms were fungi? Yeah, does anybody like mushrooms?
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
mushrooms are good.
I
Yeah,
love
mushrooms, toadstools, and moss. So you'll find now there's different kinds of mushrooms, of course. You have some that are poisonous and some that are okay to eat, but mushrooms are fungi. So you'll see a lot of that growing in that area of the rainforest. So fungi grow well in dark places, and they help dead plants to decay, to fully die. So fungi really helps with that. You can find termites and worms also in that area. And those termites and worms, they help to make the soil better for the plants of the rainforest to add nutrients to the soil. So you see, even on the forest floor, there's still a purpose there. The fungi helps to decay dead plants. And then you have termites and worms that you'll find in that area, and they help to make the soil better. They give nutrients to the soil. So yeah, even on the forest floor, there's some things important there. Like I said, now, of course, we know the forest floor is going to be the darkest layer and the hottest layer because it's all the way down. Okay, let's look at 86. Predators like tigers, that's who's on the rainforest floor. So we'll see tigers walking around the forest floor. You might even see some gorillas as well, wild pigs, anteaters. Those are the animals you'll see walking on that forest floor. Okay, that's where they live, the forest floor. Okay, so let's talk about food in the rainforest. Because the rainforest is thick with plants and trees, we know there's plenty of food for all the animals, right? So we know all the animals who eat plants, they're fine. So who do you think will be the top predator in this habitat?
The tiger.
Definitely the tiger. And you could say the leopard and the jaguar as well, right? They would also be the top predators because, I mean, they're not hunting one another. So who would be prey in this habitat?
Anteater.
Probably the anteater.
And the white pig.
Probably the pigs. They would be like the predators, prey, I'm sorry, in this habitat. Also birds, right? Because they're snakes. Don't forget the snakes. The snakes will eat the birds, right? So yeah, and some of the animals might eat the snakes. So yeah, there's a bunch of, ways for the animals who eat meat to find meat. Of course, we know those that eat plants, they have a ton of it in their rainforest habitat, but some of the animals that eat, some of the animals that will eat different animals, they have a variety of animals they could eat from. Okay, shelter. So you might think a tiger would be easy to see, but in Asia, where tigers are in their rainforest habitat, they actually blend right in with their surroundings. And look at 87. So he's out a little bit, but if he was a little deeper into that little grassy area, you wouldn't even see him. So that's why his pattern is the way it is. It helps him to camouflage. It helps him to camouflage inside of those trees. So tigers don't usually live in the open grassland. Instead, they'll live where the plants are thick, which is sad for those animals that are just randomly walking through and not knowing that a tiger is there and is going to hunt them and catch them. So the rainforest is a perfect habitat for the tiger. They need a place to hide while they're hunting, and guess where they hide? In all those trees in the rainforest. So, but like we had talked about with the other layers, most of those animals live in the trees. But like animals that live in the forest floor, they'll find like, shelter in like the trees and the plants and stuff like that. Okay, let's look at 88. So God designed the rainforest perfectly, didn't he? Much of the medicine we use today comes from rainforest plants. So not only is the rainforest home to many animals, but a lot of the plants in the rainforest habitat are used to make medicines that we use. God is so good to give us medicine when we're sick. If God cares enough about animals to create a habitat for them, how much more does he care for us? So this is the rainforest habitat, our last habitat that we're learning. Okay, so that's the last two layers: the understory, the forest floor, and the food you can find there, the shelter. Okay, so that completes the whole rainforest habitat. Next week, we're moving on to insects and their habitats as well. Okay. All right. So that's our science lesson today, guys. Yay. All right. All right, so that is it for us today. So we've covered our math, we did our reading and science and social studies. Like I told you with phonics, it's verbs today, so just make sure you remember what verbs are. Yeah. And no language today. We're learning adjectives, but we'll do some practice on tomorrow. Okay. All right. So y'all have a good day. Remember, show and tell is on Friday. So if you can log in Friday after our spelling test, that's when we have show and tell. So y'all have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.